Hello, hi, welcome once again to M5's English language learning program, Let's Speak English. I'm Gav Duncan and I'm here on your TV screen to help you learn English. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Yes? Good. And are you ready for today's lesson? Yes? Good. Okay, well, let's learn English together. And welcome once more back into the studio. Yes, we're here again, waiting for you to join us. And now you're here, we can begin. So, are you ready? Are you sure you're ready? Are you certain you're ready? Okay, so you're ready then, yes? Good. Well, it's day 4 of this revision week, so let's get to work. Okay, so this week we're looking back at what we've learned in the past 4 weeks. And today we're going to have another look, another gander at what we learned in week 22. What we learned about obligation and necessity. Okay, so this week, all this week, we've been looking at English connected to the idea of obligation, at English connected to things which are required, at English connected to the idea of necessity. So, we looked at 2 main ideas. You do remember, don't you? Of course you do. This week we looked at must and have to. Now, who remembers about must and have to? Who remembers the similarities between must and have to? That's right. The main similarity is that they're the same strength. Must and have to mean the same thing. They both show that there is strong obligation. Something needs to be done. This is required. This is necessary. This must be done. We have to do this. Okay, so we remember that they mean the same thing. Now, what about the differences? Does anyone remember the differences between have to and must? Yes, well, the main difference is connected to where the obligation comes from. The idea of whether the obligation comes from inside, from me, or whether the obligation comes from outside, from a rule or a law or something like that. So if I'm talking about something I need to do, then I normally use must. I must remember to buy some flowers for Enid. If I'm talking about something that I need to do as a result of a law or a rule, then I normally use have to. I have to wear a seatbelt when I'm driving. Alfredo has to wear a suit when he's at work. Policemen have to wear uniforms when they're working. Dave Squid has to wear a uniform at work. Now, another difference we all remember is connected to the form of the 2 ways of indicating obligation. When we use must, there is only one form. It's very simple. I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they, all use the same form. Subject plus must plus infinitive. Easy. When we use have to, we have to, did you hear that? We have to. It's an obligation from its side. It's a rule of English grammar. So, when we use have to, we have to change the verb to have, so that we use the correct form of the verb to have for the correct subject, like this. Good, great, wonderful, tropisch the cheese. Okay, now what else do you remember about the 2 forms we use to talk about obligation? There was one very important difference, wasn't there? That's right. We have to be very careful when we use must, because must is aggressive. or people can feel that it's aggressive. Have to is strong, strong obligation, but have to is neutral. It's much nicer to use. It's not aggressive, and people won't have a problem with you using it. Have to is neutral. If someone is saying have to, then they're saying, listen, this isn't personal. I don't have a problem with you, but this is the rule. This is the law. This is what we have to do. And I'm just a messenger. I'm just telling you this information. With must, it becomes dangerous very quickly. People don't like hearing must. It's aggressive, and people feel that they are being challenged. And when people feel that they are being challenged, then they react with aggression. It's perfectly normal to use must when you're talking about yourself. It's not a problem if you want to be aggressive with yourself. Be my guest. But the simple rule is that we should use must with ourselves and have to with other people. Now, sometimes people do use must with other people. There are certain jobs or situations where it's understandable that people use must. Think of situations where people are showing that they are in charge, that they are the boss. In situations like these, then people do use must, and it is aggressive, but they want it to be aggressive. They want to tell the other person that I'm more powerful than you are. I am your superior. When I tell you to do something, you will do it. Okay, now we know that there are situations like this. A teacher talking to pupils maybe, or a policeman talking to a criminal, or an officer talking to a soldier. Okay, but for us, the basic rule should always be use must with ourselves, use have to with other people. That way we can avoid trouble. We don't want to upset people. We don't want to challenge people. We don't want to be aggressive. So the best thing to do is just to use have to. Simple. Okay, now, what else do you remember about have to and must? Now, we also learned that there is a big difference when we add not to have to and must. When we want to use not with must, it's very simple. We just add not to the end. Must changes into must not. And what do we always prefer? That's correct. We always prefer to use the short version. So we use mustn't. Good. And because must is the same for all subjects, I must, you must, he, she, it must, we must, you must, they must, the same is also true when we add not to must. I mustn't, you mustn't, he mustn't, she mustn't, it mustn't, we mustn't, you mustn't, and they mustn't. Mabel, oh Mabel, Mabel, be a dear and show us a table. And can we see a table for mustn't too, please? Okay, let's see if Mabel can provide us with a couple of tables to show the differences between have to and do not have to. Mabel, are you there? Okay, so we already know that we have to pay attention to the third person singular with have to. So when we add not, it's not a big deal to pay attention to the third person singular change for do. It's simple for us. We're gods of English after all, aren't we? Okay, so let's see Mabel's table, which shows what happens when we add not. So, we use the verb to do and add have to. We use don't plus have to plus infinitive for I, you, we, you and they, and we use doesn't plus have to plus infinitive for he, she and it. Simple. When we make a change for the third person singular, we change the verb to do, not have to. It's not he doesn't has to. We made the third person singular change in the verb to do, so have to remains have to. Simple. Easy peasy. When we add not to must, we get the opposite of must, mustn't. This is logical. It's exactly the same as must, just the opposite. You must wear a seatbelt when you drive. You mustn't drink and drive. Simple, no? Yes. Now with have to, things change when we add not. With don't, doesn't, have to, there is no obligation, there's no requirement, no necessity. If you want to do it, okay. If you don't want to do it, okay. It's your choice. It's up to you. It's not necessary to do it, but if you want to, you can. Now, one other thing quickly. Must has no past form. If we want to talk about obligation and necessity in the past, we have to use had to. And when we use have to in the past, what does it change to? That's right, have to becomes had to. And it's the same for all subjects. I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they, had to. Simple. Yesterday, I had to get up early to go for a run. This morning, you had to run to catch your bus. 2 days ago, Alfredo had to work late at the bank. Last week, Doreen had to stay at school until she finished her report. Last week, it. Now, I'm sorry, I can't think of an example sentence for it. I have no idea. If anyone can think of an example, write in and tell me, okay? Moving on. This morning we had to walk to work. The bus broke down. Yesterday you had to go to school. It was a weekday. Yesterday evening they had to cook dinner. Their friends came round to dinner. Well done, everyone. But unfortunately, we've run out of time. Yes, I know. Sometimes 15 minutes seems like a very short time, doesn't it? Oh well, never mind. We'll be back together tomorrow. You on that side of the TV screen, somewhere out in Hungarian TV land, and me and the crew on this side of the TV screen, here in the 3rd district of Budapest. But if you're absolutely desperate for some more English lessons, then don't forget you can find all of our lessons and all the important vocabulary from our lessons on the internet at m5tv.hu. Okay, well, like I said, that's all the time we have for today's lesson. Thanks for watching M5's English language learning program, Let's Speak English. I'm Gav Duncan, and yes, I am taller than Jean-Claude Van Damme. And yes, you're right again, I am much younger than Chuck Norris. My name's Gav Duncan, and I'll see you tomorrow for some more English revision. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.